iHub Radio, reinventing talk radio in the Coachella Valley. Homemade for the rest of us. Live from Palm Springs, the intersection of arts, entertainment, and the desert scene. This is The Culture Corner with Bonnie Gilgallen.
And good.
How you doing?
Good. Hey, so I'm getting back off. Good Saturday afternoon to everybody, and welcome to The Culture Corner on this, where so much craziness going on in the world, but we're going to try to stay positive today. And I'm really excited to have, as my first guest, my dear friend Doug MacDonald, who is a phenomenal jazz guitarist, and he was instrumental in getting in more ways than one in helping me record my first CD a couple years ago, If I Love Again, and he did a super job, and I sing with him a lot of times at AJ's. Hopefully we'll get back to that soon. Hi Doug, how are you doing?
Good. You're a little soft, but I can hear you.
Okay, I'm afraid to get an echo here, so hopefully I'm going to move forward here. Okay, right. So first of all, how are you holding up during all this craziness?
Well, thank you for asking. What's happening is once COVID hit around mid-March, around the 13th, that was my last live gig, and then I've been writing a lot of big band charts. We had started a big band. We did one concert in the desert, and we were rehearsing in Los Angeles, but what happened is that because of all the gigs going away, I couldn't rehearse and et cetera. So basically I've been writing big band charts and teaching online, but we are back at AJ's on Wednesdays, and it's been, everybody's wearing masks and keeping distant, but we're trying. So this is this coming Wednesday will be our third week back.
And how's that working out? Are people feeling pretty comfortable about it? Or is the crowd smaller? Or how are people reacting to that?
Well, I think they're okay. The only issue is a few days before this week, there were protests, and there were in the desert even, and there was a curfew actually in the desert. I think it was at 6 o'clock or at 8 o'clock, whatever it was, and that might have deterred some people. Also, I think some of the elder folks are a little bit afraid because of the age being out, as you know, among the public. But people are wearing masks, keeping their distance. I think it's something to be careful of, but I don't think people should be paranoid of it either.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then now, what are you doing about? Are people bringing their own mics, or are people just sanitizing the mic in between singers, or how's that going? Well,
I brought an extra mic, and Larry had a mic. Larry Holloway, our bass player, and of course Tim Pleasant's on the drums with us. And what I did is I had a friend of mine there, Carolyn Martinez, who sat in first, and she sprayed it. And then I think we switched mics and sprayed it. And then my mic I put away. So we're being really conscientious about spraying the microphone, which is a great idea. And we're keeping our distance when someone's singing, so that helps. Their spray's going out. You can't help but spray something, but they're faced the other way. And there's no table right near us, so we're in pretty good shape that way.
Oh, good. I was going to ask you if they'd move the tables back a little bit. Okay, that's good. That's really smart. So I know that I think in addition to you're writing a lot of big band charts, which is great. It's great for those of us people who are performers who have other related skills, tangential skills. It's been really great. I mean, I've been able to do my online voiceover coaching, and people write and that kind of thing. It's nice to have those avenues still open when things were all shut down. But didn't you do a couple inline concert kind of things also online?
Yes. In fact, I think I sent it to you, but it's a Beverly Hills TV show. I forgot to mention that. Thank you for reminding me. It was a couple Mondays ago, and we usually do a concert in the park twice a year, and it's the art show, and we have a live concert, do a couple a day, but this year, of course, in May, we couldn't do it because of the COVID. And they called me and said, look, would you go on Beverly Hills TV? It was a paid gig for me. It was really nice. It's a great studio, Beverly Hills TV. I'm going to have to pull the link up, and I'm sorry, I should have memorized it, but I have the link. Do you still have it? I sent it to you. If not, maybe, well, whatever. But anyway,
maybe
it's
we can
a Beverly
now,
Hills.
Is this something that's repeated, that people can go watch at any time?
Yes, there's two links to it. One is the Beverly Hills site, and I think one is site that the thing is actually on. Of course, it's on Facebook and everything else. If they go to my Facebook, they'll find it. Doug MacDonald and MHC, not MC. The Drive-In's MC. But anyway, like I said, I should have pulled that up before. I don't want to interrupt your call while I look for it. But basically, it is online, and it was a really nice studio, and they were really great. There was only a few people in the studio, so we had social distancing, and it was all good. And the visual's good, and the sound is really good. So I'm really proud of that little concert.
And that's great. And how many musicians did you have?
Just solo, and it was kind of a challenge because it gave me a chance to create some versions of tunes that you don't always do. In fact, what I do at AJ's, we have a set and then a break, and then we usually have a few people up on the second set, and then I give the guys a break because I need to, Tim and Larry, and then I'll play a little set of solo stuff just to keep people there, and I really like it because I explore tunes in a different way than you would with a band, more rubato, more free tempo, more change key, change tunes, medleys, that thing, so it's kind of fun.
Right. And now, do you write music too, don't you, Doug?
Yeah, years ago I studied composition with a couple teachers, one being Spud Murphy, another David Blumberg, and I was writing a lot of chamber music that was what we called fourth stream, but originally was called third stream in the 50s, and that is a little bit of classical and jazz thrown together. Very compositional side of jazz. That's where the classical side comes in. And then I wanted to go to a regular big band, which is 17 musicians, trombones, trumpets, saxophones, and rhythm. And it's a little differently way to write, and it's conventional, but I think the jazz sound is really good with a conventional big band, so I wanted to explore that more. And I do write a lot of tunes, but also a lot of arrangements, and also arrangements of the original tunes.
Mm-hmm. And now you also have your own radio show, don't you? Tell us about that.
Yes, every Monday if I'm in town in Palm Desert, but it's all over the internet. It's KAJI 95.3, and there's two websites for it, but KAJI.org is the newer one. And it's every Monday if I'm in town from 2 to 4. And anybody can find a link on my website, too, which is my name, Doug MacDonald with an A.net. And I think that link for the Beverly Hills, also my Facebook has it. But at any rate, yes, it's every Monday, 2 to 4 West Coast time. And you don't have to be in the desert to hear it. You can go online and hear it.
Mm-hmm. And so do you play great jazz tunes and then have stories about the tunes and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I talk about the tunes a lot. Most radio stations have a program director, which is ours, is Alan Schultz, and he's very well known in the jazz field. He had the jazz station up in Carmel that Clint Eastwood used to refer to. In fact, one time I went up to play with Jack Sheldon up north, and I guess I had met Alan then. I didn't really remember him, but it was many years ago. We played with Stan Getz and Bill Berry, a bunch of people up there with Jack Sheldon up at Clint Eastwood's ranch, and but Alan has a lot of CDs in the library, and I try to talk about the tunes and also some of the artists that I've met and played with and even had a chance to record with. So it's a lot of fun to touch on the educational side.
Yeah, that's great. Super. And you've been doing that for a while now, like a year or so, or how long have you been doing that?
I think I've been doing it. I think we're in our second year of the show. I'm going to have to ask Alan when I came along. Okay. And some weeks I have to miss because I used to be out of town. And even now, sometimes I'm in L.A. rather than the desert, so I can't do it. It's kind of hard to do remote. I'd like to set it up sometime where I could do it remotely and tape it. I have setups at home where I can kind of do a little studio thing where make like you're doing podcasts and things like that. Yeah. So I might do it that way. But right now I have to be in the studio. So most weeks I'm there. And then, of course, with the gig schedule before, sometimes I'd be out of town. Not so much now, but but most Mondays I'll be there, and it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, everyone's going through this, once in a lifetime stuff we're going through right now. It just gets worse and worse and worse. But I've talked to a lot of people and performers in particular about ways to find silver linings in all this and maybe tap your creativity and pursue some maybe creative projects that you hadn't had time to do before. Have you found that at that working for you?
Yeah, because actually what happened with me not running around and driving all over the place, I was in L.A. and I was in the desert and all over the place, once in a while Vegas, and then sometimes traveling to Detroit or Chicago or New York or somewhere. By running around less, it got me a chance to study and write a lot of big band charts, and I'm doing that. In fact, I was working on one earlier today, so I'm kind of banging one out a week, and the only thing I have trouble with is proofreading. That's kind of a hassle to proofread. Just like if you wrote a story, it's the same thing when you write a chart. You got to proofread it and you go, oh, my God, how did I forget that? It's like, or how did I make that mistake? But, everybody makes mistakes. It's impossible not to. But I would say that. And also I've been studying playing, some different approaches to playing that I normally wouldn't do if I'm running around all the time, because you're running here, running there. You got to get there early, and then afterwards you got to drive home or to some other location, and it's like you're always on the go, and it is a bit of a rat race, if you will. But by not running around as much, I've had a chance to focus on those two things, some new approaches to playing and the writing. I don't really learn as many tunes as I used to, because the writing demands so much of your brain, so to speak. So as a kid, I used to memorize a lot of tunes all the time, and a lot of them I still remembered, a lot of them I don't. But I think you can only do so much in a day and a week. And if you find, like you said, a project like this, for me, it's the big band and the playing, then you stick with that instead of trying to do everything,
Have you found that your more and more people are finding out about your skill at writing big band charts? Is your clientele expanding as far as that part of your career?
Well, the only thing is we only did one concert, and then I started rehearsing. The concert was in Palm Desert at the Jocelyn Center, and it was a nice, well-attended concert for the holidays in December. But then, once January, February rolled around, I started to rehearse in Los Angeles, because the Union has facilities, which was in Hollywood. They moved to Burbank, California. And there, we started to rehearse, which is a beautiful facility. And then we had to stop because of the congregating, and the Union closed, not permanently, but for the virus. And then, so that kind of went on hold, and there'll be a way to do some concerts online or in person eventually, but it's okay. Right now, I basically, try to post some things we've done and the recordings. We've done a lot of CD. I did want to mention our CD, which is a Palm Springs theme. We have a trio CD with Larry Holloway on bass and Tim Pleasant on drums, who worked with me at AJ's. Also, Big Black is on djembe, which is an African conga drum. And we did a trio plus one. And I'll have to get you a copy, Bonnie, but it's called the Coachella Valley Trio, and it's the mid-century modern. And I really like the way it came out. We've had great reviews and a lot of airplay on jazz stations all across the country and the world, actually. So that's been cool.
Well, Doug, we're out of time. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm going to, one of these, maybe a couple weeks, but I'll be out there at AJ's on a Wednesday. I'm glad you're doing well and back playing. And thanks so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. You're the best.
All right, Bonnie, be well. I'll send you the link to the show. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Take
sounds
care.
good. All right,
Thank
we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back on the Culture Corner and iHub Radio.
Local talk that's moving the needle. Art exhibitions to modernism, music festivals to live theater. If it's happening in the Coachella Valley, it's on the Culture Corner with Bonnie G.
And we're back on the Culture Corner and iHub Radio, and I'm joined now by Eric Frankson, who, if you listen to the show, you know, is my partner, musical partner, life partner, etc. And we're both sitting next to each other right now. And I thought I wanted to have him on to talk about, he's one of those musicians that was working full time and lost all his gigs because of the virus and has had to kind of figure out plan B during this time. But, things seem to kind of slowly be starting back. So, hey, Eric.
Hi, Bonnie. I like your studio.
Thanks.
This is a great studio.
Stop. So, tell people about, tell them about you were doing Quisto up until recently, right?
Man,
outside.
I had 6 nights, 7 nights a week booked steady. This was the season where I decided I was going to make it all local, 6 nights a week, different venues, make it all work out. And it was great. And then the bottom dropped out and everything disappeared. And I'll tell you, I made a little bit of music. Talked to my band. We got together a couple times. Cinch, which is my country band, and people are just dying for us to play somewhere. So we're looking actually for a place where we can do either a parking lot or a park or something. Basically, what we want to do is set it up where, like everybody else is doing the digital tip jar and try to do it that way. I think that's probably the safest way to do it nowadays. Some people are doing pretty well doing that. Some people, are doing it more. I mean, I've almost done it more just to keep in touch with my people. But with my band, we're talking about starting to do a couple concerts where we would put out a digital tip jar. So keep that in mind for the future.
Great idea.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. I have Carrie Rose on bass and Steve Maxfield on drums, and I also have Mike Ruiz on guitar. And it's fun when we got together because we've been off work so long. Our voices are in such good shape. We raised everything back up a half a step. Everything we were doing is a half a step before down. But now we took it up, and everything all of a sudden became sharper and crisper. And we've added a bunch of new songs. So yeah, we're pretty stoked. Actually, pretty stoked. Yeah. Things are, we'll get through this, and it just feels like summer started early now. But we'll get through this.
Now, where do you think you'd have the first outdoor concert, tailgating concert, or whatever you want to call it?
I don't know. I'm going to have to find. I'd like to actually, whoever or whatever, either restaurant or facility. I'd like to be someplace that we played at already, so we can sort of say thank you.
Big parking lot would be helpful, I think.
Yeah, because we have a lot of, we have a number of people that would come to see us. So I think what for me would be first important would be to take care of the vendors that took care of us, and we expect to start back with those vendors again when the restaurants and venues, not vendors, venues, when the summer ends and everything gets started back up again. So
how are you feeling about? Some people are sort of opening up slowly with social distancing and masks. There are a few places that are having live music. A lot of people have mixed feelings about that. Maybe it's too soon. What do you think about that?
I think it has to be buyer beware. I think that if you walk into an establishment to enjoy the entertainment and the food, and you're going to spend money to do it, you are a buyer. And when you are a buyer, you have to be prepared. I've walked out of restaurants where I saw a chef with a cigarette in his mouth. So it's buyer beware.
It's your own decision.
It's that it has to be that way. And it maybe judge it. Everybody's going to have a record of this in the near future, anyways, of whether it works or not. I think that if everybody would basically, if you're going to be close to people that you don't know, you should be wearing a mask, just because it's rude not to wear a mask and pass your germs on to someone that you don't know.
Because it's not over. It's certainly not over.
We just had three people died yesterday. So it's just it's an ongoing thing that you have to. But at the same time, we all got to work. We all there's work involved, and we all want to work. And we wanted to play, but unfortunately, instrumental music and entertainers, we're going to be one of the last people to
Because you're not essential. You're not considered essential.
Well,
yeah.
no, but we depend on people getting together in close
Right,
contact so
right.
they can always cheer and yell and scream, hopefully, or throw bottles or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
They do it in mass usually.
Yeah.
So.
What about we have a couple minutes left. I have tried to look at this time as a time to be really creative and dig back into creative projects or types of creativity that maybe you haven't had a chance to do. Have you found that at all about writing or songs or music? Have you felt more creative in this time at all?
You know, the first week I felt after March the 15th when everything stopped, I felt compelled. I wrote a couple different songs that were country songs that were dealing with the virus, and one was a Hank Williams kind of cry in your beer, and the other one was Willie Nelson cry in your beer. But realistically, no. I've just been I play the piano quite a bit for everybody.
And for me, we've done our live stream
we've
on
been
Facebook,
doing it,
which is nice.
Yeah, and we're always doing
and
streaming.
Frankie's and here and there, but done our live streams.
And I like to do live streaming, and it's funny because when I do it, I really get to say hi to all my dearest friends, you know. So I have more of that coming up. I'm not this weekend, but I'm hoping that next week I can actually take my piano and who knows,
go out and
go
somewhere.
Sit on the top of a mountain somewhere.
Play.
Local talk that's moving the needle. Art exhibitions to modernism, music festivals to live theater. If it's happening in the Coachella Valley, it's on the Culture Corner with Bonnie G.
And welcome back to the Culture Corner and iHub Radio. In just a minute, I think we're going to be joined by Erica Stone. I'm getting an echo here, I don't know why. By Erica Stone, my buddy who founded SOS, Soldiers Organized Services, which is a wonderful charitable organization in the valley here that helps out military vets, Marines and military vets get free rides from the airport to the base, etc. And now, of course, everybody's kind of on lockdown. And so now they're finding other ways to help out. Do we have Erica on the line yet?
Not yet, Bonnie. I'm about to have her on.
Okay. So she had sent me a press release just to tell us about what they're doing now with the Marine Corps base on lockdown. SOS, they're not just sitting around. Their core group of active volunteers have been busy helping veterans in need with running errands, grocery shopping, light cleaning, picking up prescriptions, checking in to make sure that everything's okay, which is something that a lot of people have needed during these, now it's like almost 3 months of basic lockdown, shelter in place. So they've found ways to really be of service. And I know they've done this. I have to ask her how many years now she's been doing it. I think SOS, I want to say 8 or 10 years or something. I'll have to double check with her on their anniversary. But it's just a great service, and we'll have to get her to tell the story of how it all started. Her dad was military, and one time she was at the airport and saw a Marine who was stranded because I guess he'd missed a bus or whatever there was, and he didn't have any way to get to the base. Okay. Hey, Erica, how are you?
Hi, honey. How are you?
Good. Yay, we got you. Sorry, I know we've had some technical issues in the past and today, but we got you. So, yay. How are you doing holding up during these crazy times we're in?
You know what? How strange. How strange.
Yeah.
Our program completely came to, a halt, literally, when they, made it so that the Marines couldn't travel, like the rest of us. So we decided to stay busy. Our volunteers are very active. And so we really just went around the community and helped veterans in need, run errands, go to the bank, make deposits, check post office boxes for people, pick up medication, took a couple of people to basic doctor's appointments. Mm-hmm. So we've been staying pretty busy. But yeah, SOS, what we know of SOS for the last 13 years of giving Marines rides every day, has stopped. So ironically, at 4:30 this morning, it looks like we got our first request in months. That's so strange. But we got our first request from a Marines girl. He just got back from deployment. And when a Marine comes back from deployment, they quarantine them automatically.
Right.
Just for whatever they might, have picked up or something, just to watch their behavior and see, how they're going to adjust back into normal life. And so she's coming out to see him. So we're going to be picking her up on the 10th. So that will be our first official scheduled ride. So things are kind of coming back to normal, hopefully.
Wow, that's great. So tell us, I know I've had you on before, but it's been a little while. So tell people who might not know it, kind of the story of how this all started, how SOS started.
Well, you were briefly touching base, about that I come from a military family, and I was down at the airport, and there was this young Marine, and the first Marine, he was a deer in headlights. He had just graduated boot camp and, thought that for $1 he was going to hop off the plane and, jump on a bus and go to 29 Palms. But that wasn't the case. And he was like, well, I'm going to walk. He had like $60 to his name. And he was like, well, I'll take a taxi, $62 worth, and then I'll walk from there. And back then, it was 120, 125 one way. Now, it's 150 depending on what taxi. And I laughed. I was like, you're not even going to get to the high desert for $62, you know? So let me at least offer you a ride. And I kind of knew where the base was, the back way to Vegas. And that poor Marine, we were lost for hours. I ended up driving us to Amboy. And, when we got to Amboy, I was like, hey, I think that all those lights back there a while ago, I think that was the base. We should turn around. I know the base isn't this far. But that's how I became aware of what was going on. And my next night off, I went down to the airport, just kind of to check out, see if that same situation might happen. And sure enough, this Marine, they had come, I talk about angels in our lives and people put in our world for a specific reason. Right. And without a doubt, this Marine was really the inspiration and the angel that started this whole process, because here, this Marine, same situation. His flight was late. He had missed the bus. So the next bus didn't come till 7 p.m. the next day. And we're talking 8 o'clock on a Saturday night. So he was going to sit in the airport for 23 hours. And, what made this Marine different, though, was that he had been shot in the leg in Iraq, fell off a building. His whole leg was shattered. He had this, the crutches, the big leg hip cast type thing.
Oh, my goodness.
And when I told him, I go, oh, my gosh, I know the way to the base this time. He's looking at me. He's like, well, ma'am, I don't want to. I know, right? He had no idea. But he said, ma'am, I don't want to inconvenience you. I'll be fine. I'll just wait here till the next bus. And I'm like, that's 23 hours away.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, ma'am, the base is far. That's a trek. I don't want to have you drive clear the base, And I'm wrestling his luggage at this point, and I was like, well, you might as well just try to hobble over to my Jeep, because your luggage is going to base, so you might as well hitch a ride with your luggage, That young man had not one disheartening thing to say. He wasn't bitter. He wasn't resentful. He believed in his mission. All he wanted to do was, be rehabilitated and go back to his unit. Wow. And it was such an inspiration to me. I mean, I had a bad box cut that week on my finger, and I had been, trying to gain sympathy any way I could by saying, oh, ow, ouch, And I remember that night driving the whole way to the base with my finger stuck out off the steering wheel, because how could I dare complain about a box cut on my finger?
Right.
When here this Marine, had shattered his leg trying to defend our freedoms, for other countries. And I dropped that Marine off, and I remember getting really emotional because, and some of your listeners will know, my daddy was a World War II vet, and before he passed away, he had a stroke. So he really was kind of, grounded in the aspect that he couldn't do all the things that he used to do. Right. So he would just sit in his pickup waiting for me to ask him to take me somewhere. And I got really emotional that night because I remember my daddy would have loved to have done this. He would have loved to have been able to, even though my daddy was in the Army, and that's why it's Soldiers Organized Services, because Army soldiers and Marines are Marines.
Yeah.
But he still would have had such a great time interacting with this young, service member, the next generation, therefore. So that was kind of the inspiration that started it. Our first year we transported 500. I remember being so excited. And now usually till, this whole virus thing came about, we average to transport 5 to 15 people a day, 3 to 5 drivers a day, depending on what airport and what time they come in, if they're going to the airport or flying in, sort of thing. Our record's been 642 in a day.
Wow.
So we average about 20,000 usually a year, of needed seats for active military Marines or their family members. We transport a lot of wives and children, especially when the husbands are deployed, or during the holidays, when it's not just 1 or 2 Marines get to go on emergency leave. It's where, the whole base leaves. So that's when we have to raise money for renting big buses and things of that nature to actually be able to do that. Because we have quite a few drivers during season but not enough to transport a base to the airport.
How many active drivers, volunteers would you say you have in general?
Well, during season, we have anywhere from 150 to 200, depending. Each year we recruit new ones, and, each year, unfortunately, we lose a handful. We've lost in the last couple of months now 8 volunteers that have passed away.
Oh, dear.
And it wasn't that they were really sick, and it wasn't that they died from the virus. I really believe it's because they weren't as active anymore. When you're active every day, just going, it keeps everything moving.
Yeah.
And once you kind of, get out of that routine, so I'm just really heartbroken, and to think that those families couldn't, really even have a funeral.
I know.
So hopefully things of that nature will change, because there's lots of things. I really try to celebrate some of the good things that have come about through this virus. It was very interesting. Right in the beginning, everybody was outside walking. Couples were walking and families were riding more bicycles, and I loved seeing that.
Yeah.
But now that the months have gone on, it's really showing the effect that not only can things happen with the actual virus in place, but just when you change your routine. And I was laughing with one of the county officials in India the other day because he couldn't believe what was going on with SOS, and he's like, "How do you get laid off from an organization you started?" Unfortunately, a lot with all these other nonprofits in the community, this virus hit us right when we were all raising our funds to get us through the summer. Yeah. And all of our fundraisers were canceled or postponed, and so we're kind of a little bit dead in the water. Hey, I am officially unemployed right now.
So, Erica, I want to make sure we get this in. I want to make sure we get this in the time. So, your golf fundraiser is postponed to September, but you're starting a GoFundMe page, right? Talk about that a little bit.
We did start a GoFundMe page. We have a volunteer that July 4th will match whatever we have raised to that point. We're at I think $1,700 right now, which it's very difficult with the uncertainty of the country and the community and so many people struggling. It's been, I almost didn't want to do it, but our survival, we kind of had to do it because we've got our liability insurance, and we might not be reimbursing the gas and things of that nature like we did a couple of months ago, but we still have our basic monthly bills we have to cover. So we're scrambling a little, but after 13 years of providing rides pretty much every day till the other day.
It's still there. So GoFundMe page and SOS. If somebody wanted to help either with the GoFundMe page or just say they wanted to call up and say, hey, I'd like to become a driver or a volunteer, how would they get in contact with you?
They just go to our website, sosride.org, and they can fill out a volunteer application. They can donate through PayPal. Information about the GoFundMe, our golf tournament's now September 24th at Bermuda Dunes. All that information is online.
Super, super. Well, Erica, thank you so much for 13 years. Thank you for all the hard work you've done. What a great selfless thing to do, and get all these people to help you and help all these veterans who really need it, and even to continue doing errands and that kind of thing.
Local talk that's moving the needle. Art exhibitions to modernism, music festivals to live theater. If it's happening in the Coachella Valley, it's on the Culture Corner with Bonnie G.
We've been doing for several weeks now my little chat with Brian Mendoza, who is my fabulous board op and has his own show, film show, also on Saturdays. And he came up with a great idea to talk today a little bit about films that deal with racial tensions and racial injustice, because obviously that's what's going on right now. So, Brian, start with tell me about your list and why you chose.
My list, I would honestly go, funny enough, I'm doing an episode on racial injustice next week, so I'll give you the list of the movies I plan on talking about, which were Do the Right Thing, which, to be honest, I think that's probably the most relevant because it actually has to deal with riots, and it actually asks the question, do the characters do the right thing at the end of the film? And I'm not going to spoil it, but it really asks that question. It doesn't even ask the question, to be honest. I think it tells you the answer, but it's up to you to figure out what the answer is.
Right.
And I would also argue that movies like When They See Us.
Oh, my God. That was so, so tough to watch. Very well done, but so incredibly difficult to watch. And what a tragic example of racial injustice and the problems in the criminal system and the just outrageousness that particularly African American men have had to deal with over the years. My God, that was so tough to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Very well done. And
the thing is, though, there's still a lot of repercussions from that event. One of the most prominent members of that situation is, the President of the United States, not to get too much into it, but there's a lot of relevance about that. And, one of the funny things, one of the things I got to point out is that Ava DuVernay directed When You See Us, and then she went on to direct. Before that, she directed Selma and 13th. Selma is the biopic about Martin Luther King Jr.'s march from Selma, Alabama to Montgomery.
Right.
And that one was so great because it doesn't whitewash. I was going to say Malcolm X. Spike Lee made a movie about Malcolm X that is definitely not whitewashed. But I got to say that Ava DuVernay, she really knew how to capture Martin Luther King Jr. in a way where people had to confront who he really was as a person, as opposed to the version that we paint as very saintly. And I think it's problematic to paint him the way that I think we paint him as the peace-loving hippie, when he was way more
complicated than that.
Yeah, he really was. And I think people misquote him and try to use him in a way that he wouldn't want to be used. And I think the movie kind of shows you why we got to be careful with contextualizing our civil rights leaders. And 13th.
I'm not familiar with 13th. I know that, but I don't remember what the story was at all.
13th is a documentary about the prison industrial complex and how it tries to talk about how there is a connection between slavery and the prison system, and how, if you think about it, the prison system does target black men in particular.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that many have argued that the prison system is really just an extension of slavery.
Yep.
And the thing is, though, it really does open up your eyes. So if you haven't seen 13th, I really recommend it. It is a conversation starter. It's not many of my friends who are African American has said that it is a conversation starter, but that every person who is white and wants to be an ally to the community should definitely take it as the first step into really seeing how the system can sometimes hurt Black people.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What else is on your list?
My other films on my list, I would honestly throw in Daughters of the Dust. The Criterion Collection they have a streaming service, and they're doing free movies with Black leads. And so the one movie that I recommend from that is Daughters of the Dust, which is a movie directed by Julie Dash, who should have had a great career in Hollywood, but let's just leave things unsaid for now. That Julie Dash directs this beautiful movie that became the inspiration for Lemonade, the music video by Beyonce. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's a story about a group of three generations, or I think it's 2 generations of Black families who decide to celebrate their ancestors who were former slaves and came from the I can't pronounce it, but like a part of Africa that came from descendants from Africa. And it's actually a really beautiful movie, and I think that I'm so glad that it's getting a lot of popularity today. It tackles racism a little bit, but it's definitely one of the better post-slavery narratives that really tells you a lot about how slavery has really deprived a lot of Black people of their culture over the years.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about Sounder.
Oh, Sounder. Now, Sounder features one of the greatest performances of all time by Cicely Tyson.
Yeah, she's amazing.
And for me, any Cicely Tyson movie is great. She even made she played Coretta Scott King in a biopic about Martin Luther King Jr. called King, and she also played Harriet Tubman in a movie called A Woman Called Moses.
She sure did. Yep.
And the autobiography of Jane Pittman, which shows...
Oh, she was fabulous in that. Just fabulous.
Oh, and the age makeup is still pretty good, but Sounder is a movie about a Black man who is arrested for a crime that, didn't really harm anybody, and eventually he gets arrested for it, and the family struggles without him. And it kind of deals with the idea that a lot of Black men are taken away from their families, and it damages their family dynamic. And the fact is, there's this stereotype about how Black children grow up without fathers, but the film addresses that's not because Black men can't be fathers. It's because there's a system or there's things set up to kind of deprive Black children of both parents.
Right. Okay, let's talk about A Patch of Blue. I haven't seen that in years. I gotta watch that again. I saw it years ago. Great movie.
It really is. For those of you who don't know, it's a movie about a blind white girl who begins a friendship with a Black man, and
by Sidney Poitier.
And Elizabeth Hartman's in it. And by the way, she makes me cry when I watch that movie. One of the most beautiful scores. Just if you want to give yourself a good tear, listen to the score. And what I like about this movie is that, unlike other movies from the 60s, including some movies by Sidney Poitier, it's not a movie about a Black man saving a white woman, and it's not a movie about a white woman saving a Black man.
Yeah.
It's a movie about two people who try to have a friendship in a racially divided America, and it's really powerful.
Yeah. Well, real quick, but I know we don't have a lot of time yet. A couple things I had on my list were In the Heat of the Night, of course, Sidney Poitier, trying to be a Black law enforcement officer, trying to be respected in the South by white, his fellow white law enforcement officers. That's still a problem in a lot of places. To Kill a Mockingbird, of course, the Black man railroaded into accused of raping a white woman. That story's as old as the hills, and many, 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 many Black men were accused, falsely accused, and some of them killed, executed for it when they didn't even do it. And then Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, which is a little more lighthearted. It's not, but it's really, really addressed interracial dating at a time when that was kind of new. And this woman comes home to